Hi, my name's Don. Welcome back to Project Urtle. This episode is going to run a little longer than most, but it's covering a big job, and that was the plumbing system for the camper. The time has come to fit the shower pan into the ensuite, and here I've just set the waste into the bottom, sealed it in, and it protrudes out the bottom of the shower pan, and we'll drop down this hole in the corner and will be sealed around there, which in turn is sealed to the top of the grey water tank just below it. Now at this point there's a competition running who can spot the obvious error. Yes, that's right. I've just put the shower pan into place, sealed it around the drain, and nowhere else. I then remembered and thought, oh heck, I better try and pull this back out and put glue everywhere else. And surprising how hard it was. I'm sitting here yanking away at pulling it, eventually getting levers, etc., in underneath, and it took about 15 minutes for me to be able to get this up. Just that ring of sealant around the drain hole was providing a significant amount of resistance to coming out, even though it had not set at this point in time. I did eventually get it out, of course, and here it is back into position. I was so flustered by that I forgot to video putting the glue in the proper spots, but now there is glue liberally placed underneath the pan all the way around and along the sides where it meets the walls. And now I'm just doing the shower dance, just pressing that glue down. Having got the shower pan glued down, it was now time to set the toilet into position, and that required a little bit of mental gymnastics to work out exactly where the door hatch should be placed in the back wall to allow the cassette to slide out from underneath it, which needs to go out through the side wall of the camper. And for some reason this particular toilet didn't come with a template to tell me how to do that. Other brands that I've installed in the past came with a nice template that you could just tape on in there and draw around the line. This one required a bit more thinking. For those of you who are now horrified at me drawing on the walls with a Sharpie, you'll be pleased to know that in fact the clear plastic protective layer is still on this wall, and I've only removed it in areas that I needed to glue other things to. However, you can see now that one of my standard methods for marking things out ready to cut is to place masking tape approximately where the cut needs to go, and then marking accurately on the masking tape, and you can then remove all of your marks with the masking tape after you've made your cuts. Now we'll just do a quick visual check with the hatch itself to make sure that I haven't done something ridiculously wrong. There's a little bit of room for error with the flanges on the hatch, but best not to be relying on that too often. Once again, the oscillating multi-tool is the perfect tool for cutting through these panels. Apart from the very annoying noise, it creates very little chipping and a very small amount of dust, which is always pleasant when you're working with fiberglass. The tool even does a reasonable job of cutting around corners. If you just stick the corner of the blade in, you can guide it around the corner, maybe make 1 or 2 passes, and it does a very good job of it. A quick tidy up with the drum sander on the drill was all that was really needed, and then a couple of trial fits, remove a couple of high spots, and it was good to glue in. Next, it was just a matter of tracing around the inner portion of the hatch and onto some material, same as the walls, and this can just be then glued into there, and you come up with a door panel that exactly matches the rest of the body. One of the small jobs that I just did to fill in between other plumbing jobs was to finally cover up the area where the diesel fuel fill comes through the wall and runs down into the tank below the floor. Here I'm just setting out where the carbon fibre part that I made earlier is going to be glued onto the wall and the floor, and that allowed me then to set out the place to drill a hole through for the filler lid on the outside of the wall. The other job in this same area was to drill and fit the filler point for the water tank. This was just a simple hole saw job, and glue and screw the filler into place. When fitting this filler here, I decided to, strangely, fit the filler slightly off square, so that the hinge isn't running absolutely dead vertical but canted over slightly to the left. This means that if ever the filler door becomes unlatched, it will tend to want to swing closed or closer to closed than flap open, and given that this is my water supply for drinking, I thought it's just a little bit safer that way. I thought I'd give a quick rundown on these plumbing fittings I've been using. Some of you may not have seen these before, but they're a plastic system using 12mm plastic tubing, and they're just a push fit. They just push straight into there. There's some little barbs down inside there that grip onto the tube to stop it coming out. I think there's an O-ring inside there to provide the seal. And if you look closely, you'll see this little piece here which is movable. That's key to locking it in. Now, in this particular instance, I'm plumbing up the hot water side, so red pipe for hot water. And because the pipe, when it gets warm with hot water running through it, gets a little bit too malleable, it's at risk of deforming and coming back out. So in the instance of a hot water system, you have these little harder plastic inserts that go into the tube there, and I just tap them in. Now that stops the plastic tube from deforming when it gets warm. I'll just grab the other one that fell on the floor. Because I might as well be doing both ends at the same time. So now we've got our tube ready. It's just a matter of pressing it in. Now I always give it a little tug back out again, just to sort of set the little barbs a little bit. And then it's not absolutely necessary, but it's advisable to use these little circlips which go in behind this fitting and lock it into place. So, and the reason that is necessary will become obvious in a second. The beauty of these fittings is that they're removable. So if I set my spanner to the same diameter as the tube and push that fitting in, I should be able to, if I can grip it well enough, by holding that little fitting in, I should be able to remove the... It's a bit too short for me to grab. But anyway, it is possible and quite doable. So you can pull these apart, replace them, modify your system if necessary. And when you're finished, you pop in one of these little circlips, and then you've got a quick glance around your system. You can see have I locked all my joints. So that's all. In just a moment I'm going to do a complete video run through from one end to the other of the plumbing system, and I apologise now for the quality of the video. I did it all handheld, and to make matters worse I ended up with something hanging into the view that I didn't see until too late. Sorry about that. Okay, well, I finished the plumbing system and I thought I'd just run through it as one complete entity. That's the water fill point. It takes hose pipe in there up to 25 mm diameter. The fill pipe comes through this side of the wall, runs down that heavy large diameter black hose and into the water tank, which is approximately 80 litres capacity. The water tank is fitted with a breather at that end and a water level gauge, like the fuel gauge on your car's fuel tank. And from there, water is brought out by this pipeline through a small particulate filter, just designed to take out probably pieces of plastic from inside of the water tank and stop them blocking the one-way valves in the water pump, which is this red thing here. From the water pump, pressure line comes out this way, runs around and drops below floor level at that point. The water line runs through a protective conduit under the floor and pops up here at the back end of the camper, and from there splits, runs up to the kitchen faucet. From this junction, runs through the wall, runs along, comes up and splits off here and takes a feed down to the toilet flush, continues on up, takes a feed off to feed into the hot water cylinder. Above that, it takes another feed off, which feeds down into the tempering valve on the top of the hot water cylinder. My hand is shaking horribly, I apologise. And at that point, that tempering valve mixes hot water, which is coming out from here, from the hot water cylinder, via a pressure release valve if we get thermal runaway for some reason in the water tank, and mixes cold with the hot coming up this way and produces tempered standardized temperature water coming out there, which runs up through a splitter, one side of which takes hot water up to the bathroom faucet or down and through the wall again and up to the kitchen faucet. From each of the sinks, the one in the kitchen and the one in the bathroom, we have a 25mm drain which runs down through the bottom of the cupboard, goes through an S-bend vapor barrier, and from here runs down below the floor to the grey water holding tank, and it has a small 12mm vent off the top of that, so that water flowing down through the initial part of the drainage system and over that S-bend doesn't create a vacuum and start siphoning that over. We retain the vapor barrier. The grey water tank, as I said, is down here built into the chassis, and it drains through there to a stop cock, and under here I can hook on a sullage hose with a quick release fitting there to run that away to drain. Of course, the remaining part of the water system is the toilet and shower cubicle, and the shower cubicle drains in the corner there down into the grey water tank, and the toilet is a cassette toilet. Of course, no toilet water runs into the grey water holding tank. Toilet water is black water and has to be disposed of and stored separately, and in this case it's done in a cassette, a removable cassette, which is portable and is taken away to an RV dump point and emptied there. So that completes the water system. It's taken a little over a week
to fit all the components and run all the cables and plumbing, etc. And the reason why at this stage that I chose to do all the plumbing and some of the electrical was that I wanted to get all of that into this back portion of the camper before I put the back wall on. Access was going to be so much easier when I could just stand on the ground and do it at bench height. So now it's on to the next exciting episode. I think very shortly I'll be able to put the back wall on.